Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 133. I am your host, Kamran Shishtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
Our second video episode, guys. I'm trying to look directly at the camera up now, so hello, yay, again. Still not used to this at all. I think after I get some things done, I'll figure out a better, I guess, positioning setup. I'm thinking of, I guess, moving the camera, like, maybe down towards, like right below my monitor, so it's just kind of sitting on the upper portion of my desk, so it would be like straight, like right here would be the eye level of where it's at. I'll see if that works, because then it would be directly behind the mic, so it'd be getting the mic first. So I don't think that would work, actually. Maybe this is maybe I'll leave it here. We'll see what happens. But of course, this is Sutro Sidetalk. Every week we talk what we're playing and watching, and a bit of news, usually two pieces, maybe three, maybe one, about game, movie, TV show news, and we usually keep it brief. This week, I know last week, guys, if you were new and you just listened on YouTube, thank you for tuning in with us and getting through a 2-hour episode with us, which usually we are never that long anymore. We used to be at certain points, but for the most part, we are pretty much around between an hour and a half at this point. We've managed to have a more fine-tuned, like, shorter version of the show. It was kind of like our end of the year thing, where it's like, oh, here's our tops of the year, and then like everything looking forward to and stuff. And we had a lot to say about it, so that's why it took so long. Whereas today,
to talk about,
we got much more of a confined thing with the two things we want to talk about: Ghostbusters Afterlife and Matrix Resurrections. So we'll be talking about those two films. The news will be three pieces. E3 potentially ending, which I feel like we've talked about this before, but that was more of the possibility of it like leaving, considering we were at a point where I think it was just virtual. Like this past year is virtual, and then the year before that it was absent, and now there's we'll get to it. But yeah, so like E3 ending, CW apparently going up for sale, which I kind of have a few things to say about that. And then Ben Afleck no longer being Batman for good. Like that'll be a conversation too, because I know, of course, the internet's probably going 8 different ways on that, but I can at least we can say what we think about that and the future of DC stuff, especially because I guess we potentially would have talked about it in the Cut of Steel, but right now I put that on hiatus, so it would be here. And besides that, for the most part, we usually just put the news here anyway, that like gets on here, that's worth putting on here, considering I put a lot of stuff on Instagram now instead. But yeah, James, how was your week?
Pretty good. Just kind of getting back to work after the 1 week off for winter break, so getting back into the swing of things. It's just like the way my work is set up, we didn't have any like studies running during the break, so like for at least the first few days back, there wasn't really much to do. So this, I guess, going into next week will be like fully back to schedule. So I don't know. Last week was just like not super eventful, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I know today was a crazy day just because it was my grandmother's 96th birthday. So yeah, 96. Birthday. Yeah. After my grandfather already turned 101 in December, so it's just like, all that fun stuff is happening. We saw Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring in theaters today, which was really fun.
I love that movie, so that whole like series of movies so much.
Yeah. And then what dude, the Attack on Titan final season part 2 started today. It resumed.
Oh really?
Yeah, I watched it right before this, actually. When we got back from the movies, I went and I'm like, I know what I want to watch right now, and I watched that, and I watched the newest episode of season 2 of Demon Slayer, and I'm like happy Attack on Titan's back, because I'm just like, I just want this to end. Like that's where I'm at with Attack on Titan, whereas like Demon Slayer, I'm like, I never want this to end, but I want more and more episodes, keep them coming. And the newest episode, without spoiling anything, all I can say is I did not see that coming. And holy shit, because I've been attempting where Attack on Titan, there was such a gap between like seasons that I just said fuck it and went onto the wiki just to see what the hell is going on. And I don't read manga just because I don't have time. It's like I barely can keep up with my current pull list of comics, and then I'm behind on like reading actual novels. So of the stuff I want to read, eventually want to get to like the Witcher series and stuff in terms of like reading novels and stuff. But uh that's where I was at with Attack on Titan. Whereas Demon Slayer, I am trying so hard to stay away from any spoilers. Like that one, I'm trying to stay pure on. And like I was looking up some stuff about like Rengoku from Mugen Train, and then there's like all this stuff on YouTube going, "Which Hashira are gonna die?" And I'm like, "What the fuck? Get the fuck! I don't want to watch this. Get this out of here. I don't want to know who dies." And it's just like, Jesus Christ, stupid YouTube. So it's been a fun. Just I have to avoid things for I don't know how many years basically, and it's gonna be a great time. So good times there. You ready to, I guess, jump right into the news?
Yeah.
All right. So first off, we'll start with the gaming news, and the big thing here, like I said, is E3. We've talked about it before because E3 it felt was getting smaller from Sony pulling out and EA. I was like E3 pulling out of E3, and I'm like, that's not right. EA pulling out of E3. EA does their own thing called like EA Play, and Sony does something sometimes with like a weird showcase that comes out of fucking nowhere usually.
Well, even before Sony pulled out granted the difference is Sony pulled out entirely. Like they don't even have a show floor presence that I'm aware of anymore. But Nintendo, like they still would set up like a stage, like an event area, but it was usually themed after like a specific game that they were trying to sell like soon or whatever. But like they stopped doing E3 presentations a while ago, and it's like that's where they started their Nintendo Directs. So it's been like a while that E3 has felt like it's been like waning in like importance
to this point now too. Like, you know, Ubisoft has Ubisoft Forward, for better or for worse, and Xbox does like besides their EXO events, they've been doing their events too, like online. So and those are all
the other thing,
heavy hitters, especially now that they've combined with Bethesda, who is the other press conference group, and now they're with Xbox. So it's like there's getting less of a need unless you're actually going to be on the show floor trying stuff out at this point.
And companies were kind of pivoting towards just putting out their announcements online whenever they just felt like it or whenever it was like right for them. That even before COVID.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, well, you can't even really safely do in-person events, even to this day, apparently. We're back to there. So E3 or the ESA has not been able to do a live I don't even know what, I guess it is live, like an actual show, like a conference, in-person conference for like 2 years now, and they just canceled 2022. So not looking good for them.
Yeah, not looking good at all. And like here's what it says currently with the like little quotes I got here. Due to the ongoing health risks surrounding COVID-19 and its potential impact on the safety of exhibitors and attendees, E3 will not be held in person in 2022. We remain incredibly excited about the future of E3 and look forward to announcing more details soon. So they could try to do what they did last year. It sounds like that is what they're going to do. But at the same time, I've already been seeing tweets of being like, yo, I'm going to miss E3. And, oh, man, I remember my memories there, but it's sad to see it go and all this shit. And I'm like, I mean, that's not what the message here sounds like, but that's what it feels. That's the room temperature apparently currently.
Yeah. So after they made this like announcement, I saw a lot of games journalists commenting that like, you know, I feel like I've been hearing the E3 is dead thing for like 10 years now, and it still hasn't happened. They're still around.
I mean, we're still waiting for the fucking housing market to crash. So there's that too. It's hard. We're still, and GameStop's still around. There's all these things that we're just like, would you just fucking die? And they won't.
I love how towards the beginning of the pandemic, when I was like, trying to find things to make light of, to joke about, I was like, well, supposedly there's this mass exodus happening from San Francisco because people don't want to live here anymore because there's no point. Maybe I'll finally be able to live in my own city. No. I'm like looking at apartment prices recently and around the Bay Area and everywhere is like like not unaffordable, but definitely
It was
hard to afford.
cheaper. I would say if you checked 6 months ago, it would have been cheaper.
It might
I
have
think.
been, yeah.
Because that's when they were doing the whole extra bonus things where they're like, for the first year or two, you can pay this
True.
much, and
Yeah.
then yeah, but yeah, I think they're like, well, people are gonna come back now or something.
Yeah.
So I think
You
it was
gotta
because
live
of
somewhere.
all those people living downtown and shit, or like working downtown, and they're like, wait, we can work remotely. I
Yeah,
can
it's like,
go
wait, I
home.
could do this anywhere,
I,
then I don't need to live in super expensive city USA.
yeah, so at least we still got some good restaurants that
Yeah.
after certain ones closed, but that happens. Uh, I'm not sure what to think because it is what you said. Like we've been saying E3 is going to die for how many years now, and it's still here.
Yeah.
And there's already like shortly after this, I think there's a tweet going like Summer Game Fest 2022 coming, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, for fuck's sake. I said it last year. I'm glad it wasn't as bad as what was it, 2020 summer. 2020 summer was fucking horrible with the amount of different shows happening and how fatiguing they were. And then
Oh yeah.
2021 came and it was less fatiguing, but I was still like, I just wish it was like E3 in terms of have it in a week where everyone dies in that week, but at least it's over instead of fucking having it everywhere. So it feels like you're just having like every week of, oh, here's the
It's
news
like
of blah,
ripping a
blah,
band-aid
blah.
off, where it's
Yeah.
like, do you really want to prolong that pain?
Yeah. And I've heard so many stories, especially from like game journalists, of like, yeah, you go there, they literally have what they call war rooms for like gaming journalists there at E3 because people are like setting up shit, going in and out, going to whatever they need to, drinking a shit ton at night to cope with it all, I think. Which honestly, sounds horrible but fun at the same time. It just sounds like a weird
Yeah.
experience you can have. Uh, and now, that's gone. And it's just now you're sitting in your room on a computer, potentially with a green screen behind you going, listen, guys, this is what we heard from this company, so and so, and this is the gameplay we're seeing, and I'm talking to them virtually right here on the computer too. And like that's kind of what we've been getting a lot of, unless they can do those. Like some of them have been at least been able to pull off like, hey, check it out, we have an empty studio that we brought like 8 people to talk about these games. Like that's kind of what I've been
Yeah.
seeing over this like duration of being inside. But I don't know. Now I would like an E3, but also I don't see the need for it as much either. It's just I think all I want is just that compact news time. That's all I want. Whether it comes in the form of E3 or just everyone agreeing to, oh, okay, I have Monday, I have Tuesday, you have Friday, whatever. Talk about my shit, talk about your shit.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm looking at. But what do you think? Do you think this is actually going to happen? Do you think this is going to be the last E3, if we're even going to get it this year?
It's hard for me to say it would be the last E3. I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't really know the back end stuff of like how much it costs to do what like even like a typical E3 show, like reserving like stage present or stage time. But like last year, like we mentioned, was different where it was like I was gonna say pre-recorded, but it wasn't. It was still live. But it was like a lot of I can't remember if the segments were pre-recorded and they just like had live presenters. I know
They
Greg was
felt
there.
pretty. I think some of them were pre-recorded. They seem like they were
Yeah.
pre-recorded.
And so like that's not that hard to do, or I should say that's not that hard to do. That's not nearly as difficult to put together as like a live
Show, yeah.
So so I don't know if the ESA like didn't charge as much for last year, and if they make it worth people's money to reserve time at this show, then maybe they could keep this going. But yeah, it just seems like a lot of the news over the last many years that E3 has been losing its relevance is just like how long are companies going to be willing to shell out like thousands and thousands of dollars to do something that they could do for a fraction of the cost themselves online? And I don't know how E3 the ESA gets around that. Like, because even if they do charge less to do this semi, live presenter thing, but presenting pre-recorded segments, I don't know how you even sell that. Because, like I just said, you could just do that yourself,
Yeah.
like for a fraction of the cost. So the only thing that you could maybe keep saying about about E3 is just like its history. Like
Mhm.
there is like that allure of like, okay, it's E3 week. It's kind of like video game Christmas, where you're gonna find out what every company is making over the next like couple of years, and like what are you gonna get to unwrap at certain days and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess long answer short, I don't think this is gonna be the last E3. I hope it's not the last E3, but it's definitely not looking good for them. If they don't
Definitely.
figure out some way to make like an appealing offer to
Mhm.
game devs to like keep showing up at their events, I can't see them lasting for much longer.
Yeah, I read a little bit more into it, and it seems like they're not even certain if they'll have a digital event this year.
Oh, that's really bad.
I think they meant E3, the future of E3 in general, not necessarily to this year.
Mm,
So
okay.
yeah, there's no date or anything. They are uncertain if they'll have anything at all this year, even at the digital stage. So
Mm.
I don't I still don't know. I would like to say I don't think there will be an event this year unless they put something together last minute. I think if they will do it, we're going to hear about it in March or sometime in
Yeah,
mid-February,
I
which
guess
is
I was
also
just
really bad because that means like they have to do a lot of last minute prep to even
yeah.
make that happen. Because usually, you're spending a lot of time, a lot of months, like getting E3 together, seeing who's coming, figuring out like all that shit. And if they're not even certain if it's happening, does that mean have they worked on it at all yet? Or are they just saying we're still debating if we're gonna even try to plan it for this year, which that's 6 months away, which feels long now, but usually when we start the new year, June feels like forever away, and next thing you know, it's
Yeah,
already fucking E3, and you're like, oh, when did this happen? Like, how did we get here already? So
dude, when like Christmas was rolling around, I was like, wait, but the year just started.
like I said, I still, if I could, I'd literally change everything and go, yeah, right now it's a January, it's January 9th, 2020. And here we
Yeah.
are. And that's what I would do personally. Or if I could, 2019, I'd be very happy to just go back to 2019 too. But that's just me.
Oh, the
Uh
before times.
yeah, the before times, the normal before times, and just be like, cool, and I have a better edge, and just I still watched and played everything I did, so I don't have to do it again, please. But yeah, nothing else to say. Just I think maybe there is going to be a more definitive ending here, or another relapse here where there's nothing there again. But it's really hard to say because they don't
Yeah.
have the group together like they used to either. Moving on though, I think
Yeah.
CW, the channel DCW, home of such high quality shows as Riverdale and The Flash, is going for sale. The WB and CBS apparently are, or Viacom CBS, or I guess overall parent companies, Viacom CBS and Warner Media, are pretty much like putting it for sale because it is currently not making any money. And I could tell you why. I was reading up on it. So this is from an IGN article by
According to
Matt.
Daniel, it's never made any money.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Isn't that what I just said?
You said it's currently not making, or I might have misheard you.
Oh yeah, no,
Sorry.
actually, no, it was making some money, actually. It
Oh, was
was.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is an RGN article from Matt Kim. I just want to source that. Apparently, it wasn't making any money besides them licensing out the shows, like the DC shows, to international streaming services or international networks and streaming services, as well as like Netflix. And that's where they were making the money, was the licensing for those, not actually premiering them on the CW or anything like that. But because apparently Warner Media stopped that with Netflix, and they're trying to more promote them on like HBO Max and everything else. If it's on HBO Max, that's free. They already own that. They're not charging any money for that. They're not getting any money for that. So now they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't give us anything. So now they're pretty much like, let's just put this for sale. And I completely forgot where this fucking channel came from. Because do you remember the old channel, James?
Yeah.
The WB.
Yes, that's what it was.
Channel 13, the WB, and then it changed the channel 12. At least in San Francisco, it was Channel 13, and then it was the CW changed the channel 12 because UPN and the WB combined into the CW. I never understood what it stood for until I realized, oh, like fucking CBS C and then Warner Brothers W, and I'm like, oh, see that? Fuck, oh shit.
Yeah, Daniel also mentioned that the other day, and I was like, oh, I never knew that. It makes so much sense.
I mean, I always remembered the switch, and for some reason in my mind, I just went, so they just switched the WB to C. They just kind of put the B in front of the W, but then turned the B into a C. I don't get it. And, you know, I was just a fucking kid.
At the time as a kid, I was just like, I don't get it, but whatever. It's the CW now, I guess.
And, you know, there's a lot of shows on there that aren't, there's some shows that aren't DC, like Archie, of course. Riverdale's Archie Comics is a completely different company. There's like other shows like Valor, which I don't even know if is still going on. Maybe it got canceled or something. I never watched it. There was with the 100, which is also over, but Supernatural too. That was, I guess, the last really long running wouldn't die show. Should have ended after season 5, but you know, that's just me. They pretty much just, you know, pump DC shit into it, and it's not even really good DC shit. It's just like you just kind of get angry watching it half the time.
I liked it at first, but now there's just
all the shows
so much though.
They'll start off with a show that's really good, but then you're like, okay, there's 26 episodes in like nearly 1 hour shows for a season, and a lot of it's also filler. And after usually 3 seasons, that show turns to shit. And so far, it's rang true. And
I was trying to explain this to dad, and like my dad the other day, of like why it's a bad idea for these CW like DC shows to be so many episodes per season. And it's like you take a comic book story arc that's normally like maybe 5 or 6 issues, and you stretch that out to like you said, like 26-hour-long episodes. There's going to be a lot of filler there. And even with the Flash, like I got so tired of the Flash because they would do like 1 story arc per season and then a bajillion just like enemy of the week episodes, and I just got bored.
I will say, like they did like a weird, I guess because of scheduling and pandemic and everything else, they did a weird like, here's all the season premieres, but it's instead of like regular seasons for like the Flash and Riverdale, here's a 5-episode event for each show, and it's like every week for 5 weeks, and then it's going to go on a mid-season finale and come back to the regular season in like January. Okay. And for the Flash, I'm like, oh, this is this year's event. It's called like Armageddon, the first event since like CW's like Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff. But I watch it and I'm just like, okay, they're bringing some heroes in here and there, very briefly, albeit. This shit. This is really bad. I hate this. This is fucking. This is trash. I'm watching trash. I'm angry that I spent 5 hours. I wasted 5 hours of my life that I can never get back with this. And then I watched Riverdale, and I'm like, this is less trash, but garbage is garbage. Because it's like, it's Riverdale, but it's like a weird alternate Riverdale called Rivervale, and as in everything they did in it didn't matter, I felt like. So then I'm like, okay, so I watched 5 episodes of nothing. Oh look, Sabrina from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is in here for like also 2 minutes, showing that she's alive, and she goes, yeah, I died once, hint hint, Netflix show. And yeah, it's the same dude. It's the same. It's Kira Shipkin or whatever her name is. I forget.
I guess that's kind of interesting.
And I'm like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, so was that it? I thought she was gonna like be on the show, not just like cameo appearance for 2 minutes. Oh, okay. Fuck. I guess you could say that's 10 hours I wasted. And so that's how I felt. But back to this news of CW being sold. If they sell it, does that mean it's still going to have DC shows on it? Or will they want to just move all of that to, because here's two things they can get. One, they sell it, they get the money for selling the channel. And that is a profit, I guess, and now less production money. Two, they could license the DC stuff that's already on there to whatever channel wants to, whatever network wants to pick it up. And then now they're making money more frequently from that. Or they just put it onto HBO Max and go, hey, and here's more HBO Max original shows. And then some people go, well, this is shit. Can we stop doing the show? And then they cancel some of those shows and go, yeah, that was shit, wasn't it? Huh? And maybe we should cancel Flash finally because it's fucking trash. But
what if they shorten every season to just like 10 to 12 episodes? Like
maybe it would be better. But also, they ran out of stuff with the Flash. If you look, dude, they replaced some of the people after doing weird shit because they were like, oh, Cisco's gone now. But before that, to make Cisco interesting, we said he didn't want to be Vibe anymore because he felt he was nothing if he was nothing without Vibe, so he wanted to become someone without Vibe. And I'm like,
what?
That's fucking stupid. So that I mean, that is the only reason I care. And then they got rid of him. I'm like, good, because if he's not Vibe, then I don't give a fuck. So shit. It's weird. It's really fucking weird. They're doing some, I've noticed in some shows they're going like, maybe superpowers aren't good after all, and I only want like half the power or no power, and I'm like evil or some shit. And I'm like, you guys aren't good at writing. You guys should stop, get another job. I don't like this. But I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, I feel like it's most likely, especially since the way I heard the story was that like Warner Bros, who owns all the DC stuff, was tired of losing money on CW. So especially since, like you said, it seems like almost everything on the CW right now is DC shows. Like there's Riverdale, but it's like,
I'd say 2/3 of it is probably DC, if not half to 2/3 is DC shows.
So I could see how Warner Bros would be like, why are we doing this? We're just losing money. We have our own streaming service. Let's just keep doing the shows, put them on HBO Max or whatever. So I feel like that's the most likely thing to happen, assuming they get to keep the rights to those shows. But I don't know. Also, I wouldn't really care too much if they put them on HBO Max or not, because at this point I'm like a bunch of seasons behind on all those shows, and like we just said, it's like 20 plus episodes per season per show. I don't have the time for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
even if they were good shows,
they've already started doing like it's on both. Like you can watch Stargirl on CW or just watch it on HBO Max same day practically. And the same thing is now with I feel like they'll eventually do that with Naomi, which is about to start, and they're doing some stupid Gotham Knights show now that's going to come that is fucking it's just runaways with DC with fucking Gotham villains and Bruce Wayne's son, because Bruce Wayne was murdered. I don't know, it just sounds fucking stupid. And I'm like, because all right, we have how many DC characters without anything that you could give a show? Probably, if anything, it could be a non-shoehorn diversity cast with actual cultural thing, or like Shang-Chi, where it's like, oh, this worked because it was fully naturally done into it, whereas half of these CW shows feels like diversity for the sake of diversity.
Dude, I know we've mentioned him on this show before, but like they're back when I don't remember exactly when they introduced this character, but I guess it was back when the Batman Inc. stuff was going on, and Bruce was trying to like literally make a team of Batman around the world.
Yeah,
there was like a Muslim kid from France.
Yeah, Night Runner. He was dope as hell.
He could be a wicked cool show.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah. Or I mean, they are doing a Green Lantern show that will have all the lanterns. So I was gonna say Simon Baz, he's Middle Eastern, or Jessica Cruz, she's Latina. Like you could always do that, but those will be in the Green Lantern show, I believe, anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I don't know, there's so many characters. You could do Ragman. Ragman's a Jewish character right there. Boom. Okay, cool. You could do a bunch of dudes and gals and stuff. But
yeah, Ragman was in a DC show.
He was an Arrow for a
He was in
season, and then
Arrow.
he stops a nuke with his suit and goes, I gotta go repair it, and then never comes back until after Oliver's dead.
For real?
Yeah, he comes back in like the final episode where everyone comes for like the funeral.
That's so weird. I thought he was such a cool character.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, cool, because I honestly thought, I'm like, oh, well, maybe they'll do Batwoman in the Outsiders, or not Outsiders, Batwoman in the Unknowns or something, where it was a weird supernatural comic team in Batwoman, and it was Batwoman, Clayface, Ragman, and Alice, her sister, and they all like did some cool stuff. So I'm like, oh, what if Ragman showed up in Batwoman? And then Ruby Rose left, and then they put Javicia Leslie in, and I'm like, it's not going to happen anymore, is it? It's not. We're not even going to get that, are we? Okay, no. That was just in my head. I don't think they were going to do that either way, so that's fine. But yeah, I don't think they need to keep. All right, just to end it, I don't think they need to keep all these shows. They should, if they do sell it, don't even bother licensing those DC shows unless they really want to. But they could just put it in, fold just the DC stuff into HBO Max. And maybe Riverdale, I guess, because I'm sure people still fucking love that show. I still watch it for, I like to have pain in my life. I don't know why. But, choose which ones you want to keep, which ones you don't. But also you can, like you do with your current HBO Max shows that have like 10 episode seasons and shit, do that route. So then it's much more condensed. Like I think Superman and Lois was only like 13 episodes. And that was really fucking good. That was a good show for one season. I don't know how season 2 is going to be. I'm afraid a little bit because it's the CW, so I'm never sure if it's going to be good or not. But there's that. There's Naomi. I think Naomi could be good, and Gotham Knights, I already have zero hope for, but that's also just me. So sell it, choose which ones you want to keep, and then just kill the rest. That's what I think they should do. But all right, final piece of news because we're going a little long here. Just real fast, Ben Affleck did state in a interview with what was the company? Let me just double check real fast. He did an interview with the Herald Sun, and he said that the Flash movie is going to be his last time as Batman.
I mean, I'm honestly not surprised because he's already said previously that like he doesn't really want to do the character anymore.
Yeah,
like
which makes sense. Like, you're going like, oh my god, I got all the trouble they went through, and of course, so the issue here is you're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna say all these different things, and they're just gonna go with whatever they think should be the answer to why he's not going, not really the answer of what he gave, if that makes sense. So some people will go, he's just saying this because Warner Brothers doesn't want him to be it anymore, and that he thinks this is the easiest answer for it. Or others will say, yeah, he was never good Batman anyway, and they just don't want him because he was bad. There's all these different answers you could probably get, but I'm just going to take the one Ben Affleck's giving, which does make sense considering his actual history with like alcoholism, where he says filming Justice League made him relapse back into going through alcoholic or alcohol.
Well, the last time we heard him talk about this, he said like a friend of his told him if he kept doing these movies the same way, he would probably die.
Yeah. And let's be clear, when I say Justice League, what made him relapse was Joss Whedon's reshoots. I kid you not. In the interview, it says it's Joss Whedon's reshoots. He then says, though, he had a lot of fun doing the last minute, like the last news shoots for Zack Snyder's Justice League. And he had the most fun doing his stuff with the Flash, which he says he probably got the best version of his Batman in that movie. He also says he doesn't know if it'll be in the movie, just because I guess he doesn't know, like, how they're, they do their scenes and then they eventually watch the movie and go, oh, okay, so this is what they did with it. Like, I guess it's like that way where, some people are overthinking where they're going, oh, so DC might cut that scene because they don't want them to be shown or something. And it's like, dude, stop overthinking. Like, he said maybe because maybe it's not a absolute needed scene or something, but he does say like there's some good stuff in there. And the rumors have been that the Affleck Batman will die in the Flash, and then Michael Keaton's Batman will be found through the multiverse and come back with him, hence be the Batman there, but more in potentially like a Nick Fury style, because he was supposed to potentially mentor Leslie Grace's Batgirl. I don't know if you know, but he is supposed to be in Michael Keaton. He's supposed to be in the Batgirl movie now. So that's a thing. But
Hmm.
I think if Ben Affleck doesn't want to be Batman anymore because it's about his health, and that's also the reason why we never got his Batman film, which would have had Deathstroke and Arkham. I'm good with that. If it's for his health, like I'm good with that.
Oh
If he
yeah,
did, I mean, if he
absolutely.
just doesn't want to do it, I'm good with that. It's his fucking choice. That like he can do whatever he wants, and that's fine. And it makes more sense because then it's like you're not going, oh god damn, it's ruining Zack Snyder's vision. It's like, oh no, dude, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I just honestly am like, cool. Well, Henry Cavill still wants to be Superman. I'd like to see him as Superman. That's that's not too much, right? I think that's like a small thing right there compared to like give me everything back, because as much as I love Restore the Snyderverse, we're gonna see what the Flash movie does, but I don't think we're gonna get a Restore the Snyderverse. But that's just me.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm just being realistic.
The only thing I can think of is if they somehow make that like exclusive to HBO Max.
Oh,
Or just like every once in a while they do like a Snyderverse movie where it's like, here's what would have happened with the Flash if Zach was in control.
yeah, but I think that with Ben Affleck, I really loved what he did with the character. I really liked his Batman, albeit there was a little bit of killing, but things happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's my favorite Batman. He's what I consider the best Batman in terms of just showcasing him as Batman in the suit, in combat, in the voice, potentially somewhat with the personality here and there, depending on which movie you're watching. I guess more so Zack Snyder's Justice League than BVS, maybe. But he does a lot where it's definitely memorable, very much so. And it'll be sad to see him go, but I'm still looking forward to watching the Flash movie to see his last hurrah. And it's one of those things where I just hate waiting for this Flash movie just because I want it to just see what the fuck is happening next, to see if these hashtags are still going to be happening, if they're dead, like what the fuck's going on, because like it's kind of killing me a little bit. Where it's a weird thing where with Marvel, exactly what's going on for the next like 2 years. You get
Yeah.
what's going on. You have a roadmap. It's pretty fucking clean. Whereas DC, you literally go, let's see what happens. I guess we got this year, which is nice, but we don't know what the fuck happens after that. We literally don't know because there's a movie that's gonna change everything, and we don't know what the fuck that means. So, and some of it sounds maybe okay. Other stuff sounds like a really bad idea if they actually do it, but it's just gonna be what we see what happens, honestly. But yeah, that's all I got for it. But thank you, Ben Affleck, for what you did. And I hope you can have a healthy life afterwards and this is all over, and do whatever movies you want to do without any issues like that with Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to get into the actual feature of Ghostbusters and Matrix?
Yeah.
All right. So guys, we always do this. If we're usually talking about a movie or show that's recent, if there anything about it, it's probably gonna have spoilers. This one will. So if you don't want to listen to stuff about Ghostbusters Matrix, stop listening now. I'll put time code for the audio version. YouTube, maybe. I'm still trying to figure out how that works, but otherwise, at least audio version, you'll have it. Sorry, YouTube guys. I might put in the description if anything. I won't have like the cut up thing, but I can at least put it in the description for you guys. So, Ghostbusters Afterlife, we saw it in theaters, and it is unlike the Ghostbusters reboot that we got before. I forget who directed it. And it's not like all those, reboots, long sequel returns that they do that are like comebacks to big franchises. This is honestly what I consider the most natural love input movie of a franchise in a long time that I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people's main complaint with it that I've seen is just that like it does have a lot of like member berry stuff.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, remember the original Ghostbusters and how good it was? and it does have that, but like
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't mind it as much in this one as when we get to the Matrix. But like you said, it's just like the story that they crafted for this one to even give it a reason for existing. It fits so well with the original, at least Ghostbusters 1 lore that
Yeah.
they set up for that movie. That like literally when they explained the whole point of the mining town, I was like, this is genius. Like I never would have even thought of like where did they get the selenium rods to build the tower that was
How the
like
fuck did you remember that name?
because it's like at least I think that was what it was. They mentioned it and I was like, oh, is that the same stuff from that movie Evolution? I don't know.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
I could have misheard them, but
Evolution.
it's like
Oh god.
basically there's like one throwaway line sort of in the first Ghostbusters where it's like they're in jail and Egon is explaining to everyone like why it's so bizarre that Dana's building is built the way it is and like maybe why it is like the seeming to be the center of the spiritual activity that's going on at the time. And it's like, yeah, the guy who built this building was like a nut job who was crazy for supernatural stuff. And he built it with a bunch of materials that you would never normally use because he thought he could make a tower for channeling spirits. And it's like, okay, yeah, he did. He did that. He was just a rich guy who was able to do that. And in this movie, they were like, no, no, no. But where would he get those rods though? And he apparently built this whole mining town. And like Egon, I guess at some point was like, wait, but what if there's more shit there that we need to know about? And he goes there and just like, I don't know. I loved that detail of like taking that one line from that from Ghostbusters 1 and go and taking like making a whole town around that. I thought was such a clever
Yeah,
idea to tie it in.
it was really cool. The fact that they somehow make this feel, like I said, fully natural compared to like, all right, let's say Star Wars Force Awakens. That's an example of literally like, here's nostalgia. It is nostalgia where it is just a copy. It's a carbon copy of just the greatest hits of the original trilogy. And then you get it and you go, well, I had a good time at least because it did this and this. And then you get the rest and you're like, I'm angry and I'm going to go make a Molotov now. But this does it where it keeps things original. You have a new young cast, which I guess also Star Wars did, but you have a new young cast that
Even younger.
even younger. Yeah, exactly. There, that sounds better. It's even younger. No, but it's, you know, Egon's grandchildren, and they feel like their own characters. They don't feel like weird copies or anything. The granddaughter, I forget what her name was, but she has like similarities to Egon, but she's still different. And you know, the grandson is completely fucking different, where he just
Yeah.
like he's just a teenager being a teenager, and the mom is interesting because it's like, oh, she didn't really have a parental figure, and she has like all this like I guess built up hatred for
Yeah,
why he
she like
wasn't there.
resented her father Egon for
Yeah,
years because she's like he just left and never gave a reason for why, and he never came back. And like he basically didn't care for me, so why should I care for him? And then she finds out that like why he came to this town, and he's basically been single-handedly keeping like
the world's
the
safe.
world safe and like, but also keeping tabs on her life just to like know how she's doing. And it's like, oh shit, he did care and he did have a very good reason for leaving.
You get all the classic, you know, Ghostbusters back, which was really, that felt good. It felt really
Phoebe,
good
that was
seeing
her
them.
name.
Phoebe, okay. But you see all these, you know, you get the three boys, your three classic men back, and they do a great job of bringing them back. Like they feel original, like they used to. I mean, they feel like they belong there when they do it. And they don't do any crazy stuff really. It's just like, yeah, they're still just Ghostbusters. They're guys in suits with like
Well, they like
fun.
they kind of moved on though. Like I forget what Venkman was doing, or yeah, what Venkman was doing. I think he was like living with Dana, doing something, because that was like the post-credit scene was her doing the same like psychic experiment on him that he was doing in Ghostbusters 1. But like uh Ray though, he's just like owns an occult bookstore,
Yeah,
That's
he's just
apparently
this small thing.
funded by Winston, who's like a super rich dude now.
Who's just like, yeah, that's what he wants to do, so now I can fund him and let him do it, so he doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry about anything, which is really nice. And so they have all these new characters. They have the grandchildren, you have the mom, you have Paul Rudd, who's
I love Paul Rudd. I
the
love Paul Rudd in
teacher.
anything, but he's just so good.
He's great in this. You have Podcast. I can't believe they fucking got a kid named Podcast.
I love that. That
That
kid
was
was
so
so funny.
stupid. He was great. And then the
Dude,
girl,
especially for that joke at the end where it's just like at some point he mentions like, oh yeah, I have like one listener or whatever. And then it turns out Ray is somehow his one listener.
yeah. He's bored at the fucking shop all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's the girl that works at the diner, who's I guess the police chief's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so each one brings something new. Like the police chief's daughter is the love interest, but also has like some form, like she at least is capable in terms of what she can do. Like she does some ghost busting stuff until she gets taken over by I forget which one of the dogs gets her at a certain point after it gets out of the mom. But Podcast brings in full comedic fun. Paul Rudd brings in full comedic fun to like just, top extent. And then everything that they do feels good on its own. Like you don't feel like it's a Ghostbusters movie like the previous two. It feels like it's its own thing because it's a weird town and the stuff that happened before is like kind of a legend now, practically. Like it's been so long, no one really cares as much. It's like kind of what they say in Lord of the Rings. History becomes legend, legend becomes myth, like kind of like that. And they don't really bring the classic stuff in until later. And even when they do, it's a very small allotment.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, even when they do like, I want to say like air quotes copy scenes from the original Ghostbusters, like it still feels a little bit different. Like when Gozer shows up again and she does the same exact like, are you a god? And then it's just like, from the original scene, and like all the other Ghostbusters just look to Ray and they're like, don't make the same mistake you did. And he doesn't. And this time he's like, yes, I am a god. Like I love that.
That was great. So what this does is make something original while still balancing some good nostalgia, but making it not force-fed or artificial. It feels very natural, like it belongs there. And one thing I could appreciate about this movie is because you could tell it was put in with love, surely by the fact that the references they do make, they're not even really references. It's like they utilize it and put it into the story to make it effective. And the reasoning, like the whole thing with the town, where it like harkens back to the first Ghostbusters movie, and it makes so much sense when you're like, if you actually paid attention to those movies like James does, you're like, holy shit, I can't believe they pulled that off and did that. Like you don't even, it's crazy that he like was able to make something like that. And how much work they put into that while still making it stand on its own as something where you can watch completely separate. Like you don't have to you don't have to watch the other movies for this one, because they even make it like the people in the movie don't even know what happened. So then you could be like the same thing where you're like, oh shit, and you go, who the fuck are the old guys at the end? But you still enjoyed it probably. Whereas if you did watch it all, you're like even better, like, oh, this is great. And I can't believe they got these fucking old dudes back in and made Ghost Harold Ramis as well. Like,
yeah, that was the only thing that was a little bit weird, was that they did try to do like Ghost Harold Ramis so they could have all the Ghostbusters back together, and like the CG was pretty good, but they didn't want to risk, I guess, getting a voice actor that tried to sound like him. So he doesn't say a word. He just kind of nods his head and gives it like a wink or whatever.
It worked. I thought it worked really well.
I thought it worked fine. Like it was as good as I could have asked for, I guess.
Because we've gotten now like all the Carrie Fisher stuff. We've gotten Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, and then certain versions of Luke in like Rise of Skywalker, and then even Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So you've been seeing Disney do it a lot, and sometimes you're like, I can't believe you fucking did that. Other times you're like, oh, this actually, by the end, it's like the Rise of Skywalker flashbacks where it shows Luke and Leia young. I'm like, okay, that kind of worked.
Yeah, those look fine. Even Tarkin was fine until you get really close to him.
And then you're like, zoom out,
Yeah.
fuck. But
like if they had limited it to just seeing his like face in the reflection of the windows, like he never actually turns around to look at Fennec, that would have been fine. But they tried really hard.
yeah,
And then at the end of the movie, you get Carrie Fisher, young Leia, and it just looks
help.
there's something off about it.
Yeah, a
It's
little
a
bit,
little bit
and
too
then
smooth.
yeah. Whereas she did look more. It's also because they had her in the dark in Rise of Skywalker. Like they're in the dark
That probably
dueling
helps.
and had
Yeah.
helmets on, so it's just like brief look. Oh shit, it's gone, and then
Yeah.
that's it. But this one, it felt like there was progress. It did feel like there was some good progress when it came to Egon, and I think they did it respectfully. And the fact that it's also him as a ghost, considering he is dead in real life,
Yeah.
also seemed like it made sense and it worked. And I think he, as I, I'm spitballing here, but I feel like he'd like that personally. Just as someone that was in a Ghostbusters movie, going, "Hey, if you're dead, is it cool if we make you a ghost?" Be like, "Oh yeah, that'd be fine." I mean, I think that seems
I'd
very
like
much in
to
character.
I'd like to think that you'd find the funny stuff in that. Yeah.
Yeah, if I was in Ghostbusters, I'd be like, "Yeah, do that to me if I died." Like, it makes sense. It works. Too bad I can't see it, but
Yeah.
overall, I really think it was one of the better movies this year. Easily in the top 10 of
Oh yeah, it got on my
2021.
list of top
Yeah,
5
it was.
for last
What number was
episode.
for you? What was the
Oh,
number?
I think it was like 3 or something like that.
Yeah, so it was really high up there for you. I almost wanted to put it there, but I mean, not as number 3, but I wanted to have it on my list. But it's just like it was contending with fucking Snyder Cut and Shang-Chi and like Demon Slayer Mugen Train. So
Oh,
it was
it was
very hard.
4.
Okay.
Shang-Chi was 3 for me.
So that's why I couldn't get it on there. But otherwise, it is a really good movie. I think everyone, if you love Ghostbusters, you will. I honestly think you will love this movie. If you haven't seen Ghostbusters, I'd say give it a chance. It's not like that reboot that we don't really talk about for a reason,
Yeah.
but it really does do a good job, and I think it hits all the marks you needed to in terms of caring, love for the franchise, and making a new movie that does stand on its own, which it does. And when we were leaving the theater, I remember I said, like, I would want a sequel of this. Like, that's how much I liked it. And I think it even succeeds where like Jurassic World failed, where that was another weird one where then you got Jurassic World fucking Fallen Kingdom, and you're just like, I can't believe they made this fucking comedy. But this really, I think, for the first time of a franchise that someone's brought back, is one I feel good about having a continued future.
Yeah, same.
Which I really think says something there compared to like everything else we've gotten back from the 80s and 90s. And
I just want to see
2000s.
like potentially more Phoebe, because I thought she was so funny.
Yeah,
and like such a good character.
I'd love to see more, honestly, all those characters back.
All of them, sure, but like Phoebe was definitely supposed to be like the new sort of main character, I guess.
And I did appreciate the ending when the car gets taken for repairs.
That was really nice.
That was really good. That was a great like monologue. I really thought that was really good. But yeah, it's Ghostbusters. I don't know. Anything else you wanted to say about it?
No, I think you hit all of the points. It's a very well done like movie that's dedicated to feeling like its own thing, but also paying a lot of tribute to the original movie and not in like cheesy way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. It's a good time. I think it's worth it. I definitely like when the movie ended, I turned to you and I was just like, I can't believe how much I enjoyed that. I was not expecting it to be that good.
Yeah. But that was Ghostbusters. That was not Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah, now an example of a movie that is a bad way to return to a series.
Okay, guys. So we watched Matrix Resurrections in theaters more recently. And
I guess like really quick caveat. I did also enjoy this movie more than I was expecting.
I liked it. I enjoyed this movie. I had a fun time.
But that's only because I was expecting to absolutely hate it. Because I was just like, I'm always so worried when you bring back a series after so long, especially one like The Matrix, where it's like,
I still know Kung Fu.
It had like a definitive end to that first trilogy.
It did.
Like, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you how they bring it back. And when I first heard that they were gonna, I was like, okay, good luck. And like, again, I did enjoy some parts of this movie. but it still by the end did not convince me that it needed to exist. And there are a bunch of parts where I'm just like so confused of what even happened.
Yeah, so if I can say what I think of the Matrix in 2 words, it would be a fun mess. That is how I describe
That's pretty good,
Matrix
yeah.
Resurrections. It's like they have a lot of fun with it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, the whole time we're going through this fucking movie, I'm just like, oh shit, no, oh man, that's crazy, man. And then after, I'm just like, that was really fun. It was a fucking mess. It was a fucking mess, but it was fun. It doesn't know what the fuck it is. It doesn't know what it is. That movie is just like a weird fuck fest of weird, like,
It is a mix of a lot of tones because like they do poke fun of the fact that it even is a sequel, like an unnecessary sequel,
that
like
one is like member berries
directly.
to the max. That is like nostalgia to the max, because you know what they did, guys? They took clips of the Matrix movies, like the first, I'd say majority just the Matrix original, and then maybe a little bit from Reloaded and Resurrections. It took those clips and just threw them into the movie for flashbacks. They just kept doing
Yeah,
flashbacks and going like, check this out, and you're like, it's funny because you look at the change in style of like cinematography and the way movies pop out at you. Like, you look at the old like Matrix movies, they feel very much like in the screen, whereas everything else in this movie is like coming out and trying to like poke at your eyes, and it's not even 3D. But you're just like, oh my god, and then you're like, oh nice, a flashback. I can kind of lean forward. Oh shit, here it comes again with the fucking fake
I mean,
Mr. Smith and shit.
I think the worst example is when they are trying to convince Neo to take the blue pill for the second time, and they
Oh,
take him to
that
that theater, and they're literally playing the scene where they introduce Neo to the blue pill in the first movie on the broken screen in
this
the
is my favorite
background.
part.
And I'm just like, why would they do this? Like, why? Like, they explain it that it's like, oh, we thought that maybe if we had something to remember you or for you to remember your old life by, it might make this decision easier for you. But I'm like, no, but you're literally playing the first movie in the background of this scene. Why are you doing this? It makes no sense. Even with given the context that they're trying to say that Neo, Mr. Anderson, is like the creative director for the video game series The Matrix, and that the first three movies were just like games that he made, and that's supposed to be like gameplay graphics. And I'm like, that's just a movie. You're just showing his previous life. What is happening?
You don't actually see a game ever. Like, to the point, like the
Yeah,
closest you're getting is
the modal.
no, whatever game he was making. Yeah, whatever that was.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
beginning where they explain like
I know
some.
my game's not going off as well as we'd want it to in terms of
Yeah.
production. And then he's like, no, we want you to, the company wants
Oh yeah,
you
when
to
his
make Matrix 4 or some shit.
yeah, he's like they want to make they literally say Warner Brothers wants to make a sequel to the trilogy. And he's like, but they can't do that. Like, oh no, apparently they can, and they'll do it with or without us. And I'm like, is this the director? Like, I think it was a Lana Wachowski was the one that came back for
Lana
this one.
Wachowski, yeah.
Yeah, she. Do you think she literally was like had that conversation with someone else in real life and was just like, I'll put it in the movie. It'll be hilarious.
I honestly think so. They were just like, because I don't know if the other Wachowski sister produced. I think she probably produced it and just only one directed it, which I don't remember
Mm.
why, considering like both of them back when they were the Wachowski brothers, they directed all three together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I don't want to say that only having one did this. I think it was just the fact that it was done, and then they said, let's just make another, and that was probably WB. And
Yeah.
then they said, well, one of them was like, I guess I'll hop on for it or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Like I could
here
understand
we are.
if I had directed the first three movies and I got news that like the production company was going to try to make a third one with or without me, I might be tempted to sign on to work on it just so I can like try to keep it close to my original vision.
Yeah.
But
It's honestly,
yeah,
here's the thing, it's believable either way. It's believable that, oh, this would be a funny joke, but also believable that, oh, let's put this real message in here because we think it's funny, but also this actually did happen.
yeah.
And you could go either way, probably. I'd love to find out which one it actually was, but I also feel like Warner Brothers was probably like, you can't tell them because then fucking make us look bad and shit.
I just think it's weird that they actually used Warner Bros. Themselves in that scene.
I mean, it's like I told you, but I said it in the theater. I was like, it's like when you work for Abstergo in Assassin's Creed games, and it turns out Abstergo, you work at Ubisoft, which is owned by Abstergo, and you're just like, I'm not shocked with all.
Yeah.
Abstergo seems like they would have sexual allegations all the time too.
Yeah, I can see that.
In terms of the cast, so you have, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss returning as Neo and Trinity.
I thought they did fine.
They did okay. Like Neo is Neo. Like he is exactly the same as he was before. Like, hey, yeah, I'm Neo. Wow, I'm gonna jump off this roof.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just like the fact that he has long hair and facial hair and just looks like John Wick now, but I don't know. It didn't feel exactly the same. But maybe I'd have to go back and watch the original movies again
Until he was
maybe I'd
bald
see it
when they pulled him out again. And then
yeah,
like,
that's true. He
did
just
look like aged bald Neo.
That's true. He did look the part then.
Yeah, and then they were fine. Like I honestly, it's like all the characters were fine. I think it was just the plot itself was the mess. That was where the mess was the
Oh, absolutely. It made no sense. Like especially when the analyst actually explains why he resurrected Neo and Trinity. It's specifically why he had to keep Trinity alive. I was like, I don't understand any of this. Why is this happening? Also, like, I guess I kind of want to go with like the parts of the movie I do like first, because it's a little bit briefer to talk about. So I did like specifically like when we got to see the city of Io after they brought Neo out of the Matrix, and
yes, that was cool.
Like they kind of cover what happened to Zion, and
that was the
like
thing they don't.
Well, like they very briefly are like there was scarcity in energy like production after what Neo did, so there was like literally a war, like a machine civil war, and somehow Zion got destroyed like in the process. And now Io is like the new city. And what I thought was super cool about it was that like there may not be like a full-on truce between the humans and the machines anymore, but there are at least some sentience, that which I thought it was really weird that they were calling the breakaway machines sentience, because technically the humans would also be sentient, but whatever.
I think because all humans are sentient.
Well, that's the thing. So it's like it's
unless
not
you're in the Matrix. So,
it's not like really a specific name. I guess.
Don't question it. It was
but like, so I thought it was cool that there was actually like cooperation between humans and machines,
and also programs.
And programs, they had
like the silver people, like the weird like fun bead people.
Yeah, they even had like ways for programs to temporarily like interact with the world, which
they look like cool. They look like, remember those weird like silver things you could put your hand in and imprint it? It was like that metal. That's what it reminded me of a little bit, kind of like that.
So in like one concept I thought was super cool was that like, so one thing that they mentioned in the first movie was like there is really no food in the real world that's anything like in the Matrix, because they just don't have the ability to make it, and anything that did live beforehand is like pretty much dead.
So they're 3D printing it now practically.
And so now it's like with the power of like the machines helping them, they literally are able to make like strawberries and shit. Like
like through genome.
Yeah, it's like
weird like genome print process.
Well, they literally were like, well, I guess the idea is like DNA in the real world works exactly as it does in the Matrix, which makes sense because they did base the Matrix off of reality.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, we have the genetic code that works in the Matrix. Let's just take that genetic code and print actual genes and like make strawberry cells and just grow strawberries. And they did. And I was just like, that's actually genius. That's actually a really,
really
really
cool.
cool use of the Matrix and
Yeah.
like cooperation between humans and machines. I thought that was such a cool concept. But everything else though, like especially in also like their explanation for why the new Morpheus is not played by
Lawrence Fishburne.
Which I guess it still could have been, but for whatever reason, this one is like a program version of him that Neo made while he was hooked up to the Matrix as an attempt to try to free himself.
Who started off as an agent.
Yeah, and he was like half Agent Smith, half Morpheus, but he just like kind of woke up at some point.
Yeah, which is why he starts off as an agent at least.
Yeah, like I thought that was such a cool concept and was very interesting. But then the original Mr. Smith is still a thing, but he doesn't look like Hugo Weaving anymore, but he's still around. And the analyst knew he existed. And he just like kept him around, I guess because he wanted to study him or something. I was just like, no,
I can't remember why, but I think it was just he could have been like too powerful to delete at the same time, because you know, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. Like I said,
that's the thing, it doesn't make any sense because that was the whole point of Matrix 3 was like trying to
destroy him because he's too powerful for the machines to destroy,
because he's destroying the Matrix and he's
trying to get out. Me and more me. Yeah. Mr. Anderson.
So, and at least the actor that tried to play Morpheus in this movie, I keep forgetting his name. It's like pretty long.
I know, it's Black Manta.
That guy. He's a great actor, and he did a pretty good job of trying to be like new Morpheus. It's not quite Morpheus, but the actor who plays
Abdul Mateen.
Yeah. So the guy who plays Smith in this one, like I've seen him in at least Mindhunters. Like he's a good actor, but I didn't get Smith from him at all. Like even in the first scene where he
had more emotion than Mr. Smith too.
He did. And like the scene where like shit's going crazy and he picks up a gun and just randomly goes Mr. Anderson. Yeah, I was like, why is this happening now? I don't understand.
It was because he's having deja vu feelings and it activates him in the inside. So that's why he's like, oh, fuck. And he wakes up and he goes like, I know who you fucking are. And that's why it does all that. Which I did understand that at least. I mean, that for me, that.
But it just seems like if it was that easy to wake him up, like, I don't think the analyst should have kept him around, especially close to Neo. But
like you said, like we said, like at least Keanu Reeves is just Keanu Reeves. Like he's just as he's always been, for better or for worse. But it works in movies. It does. Just kind of like Nicolas Cage. Carrie-Anne Moss does a good job as Trinity. You feel it. Because honestly, she's always been a well-around actress. And then with all the new characters, you know, you have, like we said, the new Morpheus, who's like a weird like Morpheus, Mr. Smith hybrid, kind of like Connor Kent, where he's like a Lex Luthor Superman clone, but he does a good job of just like being his own character at the same time, where he's like, I'm like them, but I'm not them, but at the same time, this is as close as you're going to get to Morpheus again. So it was interesting the way they pull that off, especially because he's not like, you know, Morpheus was captain and then like leader and everything else. He kept rising higher and higher. This is straight up just program man. So he becomes Silver Bead dude when he's in the real world. And Mr. Smith is, you know, he's fine. He's nothing special, but he gets whatever job he's trying to do done, more or less.
He just didn't really need to be in this movie.
Yeah, this is what
he helped out in one scene, but I was even confused by that because the last time we'd seen him before that, he was literally trying to kill Neo.
Well, we knew he wanted to take down the analyst overall and wanted Neo's help with it. That was his thing. And then Neo was like, fuck, no, I'm not going to help you. And then he was like, well, I can save you now because it's going to be advantageous to me if I do this because it's going to help get rid of the analyst.
Wait, but I'm confused because I thought when they fought beforehand, he said like, I need to get my revenge. You cannot be alive, and that's
you can't get in my way. I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he took advantage of the opportunity during that room with the analyst. Speaking of, the analyst played by Neil Patrick Harris.
I thought he was pretty fun.
That was interesting.
But that's just because I like Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, it's Neil Patrick Harris. Like, you can't not like Neil Patrick Harris. And then he's like doing the whole like, I can slow everyone
his
down.
cat deja vu that lets him reset the Matrix.
Dude, that was funny. And honestly, him getting his ass kicked too was hilarious because it's enjoyable because you're kind of like, oh, but I kind of don't want Neil Patrick Harris to die because I just don't want to see Neil Patrick Harris dying. Besides, like, I guess in Harold and Kumar, and then he still survived anyway. But like he can't die because he's like a powerful program, and the machines still feel like they need him. So he just gets the shit kicked out of them until like
I love at the end of the movie when Trinity literally like kicks his jaw off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it just
when
like
kick the shit
snaps her fingers and like it's back.
Yeah,
it's kind of a callback to earlier in the movie where she's saying she kind of wanted to do that to her like fake husband, but
which she does at a certain point because he gets activated, I think.
Yeah, so I was also very confused by those because I'm still not sure if those are like real people that have like hidden code in them, or that lets
I think they could be real people with hidden code in them. I don't know if that means that kills those people or not. It's hard to say. Or if they were just code in the first place. Like that's where it's like
I just don't see how that's better than the agents though.
I don't know. It's like you asked when we were in the theater, you asked all these fucking questions. And I said one thing to you. I said, don't think too hard on this. It's not worth it. Don't try to turn your brain on for this fucking movie. And I hate that. I really do. I don't like movies that make you turn off your brain and everyone tells you, oh, just turn off your brain, which is probably actually why I've been holding off on still watching Tenet, because I've heard that with that movie too, which kind of sucks for a Christopher Nolan movie. Like, that's kind of crazy. Yeah. But I think even though this movie is fun and I don't like turn off your brain movies, I do have to say, like, you gotta just click off for this one, because otherwise you're just going to have all these questions that you're not going to get answers for unless you're at a Q&A with the creators and you ask them this and go, why was this like that? And they tell you, you are not going to know what the fuck was going on in this movie for certain things.
I almost want to watch it a second time just to like rehear people's explanations in the scenes to see if I understood.
I mean, it's on HBO Max. You can do it.
I just don't want to spend another hour,
exactly,
like 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. This is a fucking 2.5 hour movie. I'm like, I was awesome. I'm good. I don't need to watch that again, unless for like a few scenes.
I was also very confused at the end when they're like, turns out Neo isn't the one. Neo and Trinity are the one, and they're both powerful together. And now Trinity can fly too. And I'm just like,
now I can fly.
I don't understand, but that's not a 1 though. That's a 2.
You know what they say, James? 1-2 punch, and also turn off your fucking brain while you still asking questions. What did I just say?
Yeah.
And then last character, but like we said, Neil Patrick Harris is cool. He was fun for what he did. Honestly, if they did a sequel, I'd love to see him again, just to be like that punching bag, but also like he gives them information because he's like, well, fuck it, whatever. Bugs, played by Jessica Henwick.
Yeah, which I don't know if I like her name or not, because it's like, it is a funny play off of like computer bugs, but also Bugs Bunny. But
yeah, it's just be like she makes herself the White Rabbit in this movie.
Yeah, but I just hated that reference, because she literally is like, Neo, if you want answers, and she like slides her sleeve up. She's like, you'll have to follow me. And I'm like, you didn't need to actually do a White Rabbit reference. You didn't need to do that.
I mean, that was supposed to be the whole get him to remember. That was the whole point.
Except they'd already tried before that.
They're using anything they can.
I guess. They're
trying. They're just trying. Don't question. What did I just tell you to question? What did I just say?
No, it's not even like a hard thinking thing. It's just like,
I mean, that one made sense.
Out of nowhere.
It made sense. I thought it made sense. And it was a simple one.
It felt a little bit too forced for me, but
everything
that's just me.
Was fucking forced.
No, that's fair. That's the whole movie.
That's the whole fucking movie.
Even Neo uses the Force now.
But Jessica Henwick, I legitimately enjoy her a lot. Yeah, like, I really enjoyed her. She's one of the better parts of Iron Fist for what you can salvage from that show. Yeah. I was annoyed that she wasn't in the other Star Wars movies after the 7th one. She's Nymeria in Game of Thrones, and she's cool until she's basically hanging from her own whip on the front of a fucking boat after fucking Euron kills her. But God, he strangled her. I forgot. Yeah. She's in a lot of shit, and I was happy to see her in this. I listened to an interview with her. I forget. I think it was for the Blade Runner show. That's the anime that's out, and I'm not sure how it is. I haven't watched it, but at least from the trailers, a lot of people I know looked at it and went, "Oh, this is going to be a piece of shit." But she seems like a big old nerd that actually loves all these roles, and she's like, "Oh my god, I want to do this stuff," to the point where I don't know if people know this. She turned down being Colleen Wig in Shang-Chi. She
I
was
heard
going to have the
that.
Iron Fist powers in Shang-Chi in that movie to instead be in the Matrix Resurrections. Whether or not, that was a good decision or not, she literally was like, oh my God, I fucking love the Matrix. I'd love to be like, she probably nerded out and went like, I want to be in this movie for better or for worse, which, if she liked it, she liked it. She had a good time, then it was worth it. And for what I can at least say, the best action sequences were usually with her because they did like these, I think I enjoyed it, but they did weird slow motion like jumps with her where she'd be like hitting off of buildings and like jumping up on ceilings and shit, doing like weird runs while she's like shooting. So I thought that was really cool, at least for her character. But she acting through it, she was good. I really enjoyed her role in it. Otherwise, like I said, overall the movie's a fun mess. You turn off your brain for it. Don't try to do more than that. Otherwise, you're just going to be like, what the fuck is going on? And you'll be like James,
can't
who's
believe-
unfulfilled and asking questions. We'll probably have a cork board with like Charlie going like, oh, man.
No, that's how I feel. It's like you have to make all these like weird connections. You're like, but it doesn't make any sense. None of it makes
Memento
sense.
makes more sense than this. And that's actually, I mean, that movie does make sense when you actually you figure it out. But like,
it's just really weird. Other than the new Morpheus and Bugs, like none of the other people in the crew really like stand out.
No, not really. There's like the dude who's always like there digitally. He's kind of like that version. He's
the
their
new
version
handler.
of like Link and Tank
Mouse.
Dozer.
No, Mouse was another one. That was
Mouse
the kid.
just fucking dies after he goes like with two massive machine guns.
Yeah.
Somehow misses all of his shots and just dies immediately. Good job, Mouse. I did like
that's
though,
another thing. Like no one died in this movie.
I mean, I kind of enjoyed that because I did like the joke where they're like, oh, we're all gonna die, and you look at the past crews and they all fucking die. So I did take enjoyment that no one died, where it was like, it'd be nice if no one dies. And I will say also the funny thing,
just kind of lowers the stakes because like in the first movie, you're like, oh shit, people are dropping left and right. Like shit's like serious in this movie.
Not like this.
Yeah, and it's like that's the thing. It's like dying when you have literally no way to defend yourself from like because you're in a different world. And then
but they do that a lot in the trilogy, I think, to a point where like you are watching everyone die left and right in all three movies, from like in the Matrix, out of the Matrix, in the battles, and in this one you're like, I mean, these people kind of look cool. It'd be nice for once to not. I think it was like they were trying to do let's not do that gimmick again because that's what's expected. And you're kind of shocked when people don't die because then you see them go like, they're in the car and I forget what her name was, but she's like, Trinity inspired me and everything else. And she's going to die in the car with the other dude. I was
sure that they were dead.
Yeah. And you're like, oh God, they're going to leave them behind and that's it. And then they're like, no, let's go back for them. And I'm like, oh shit, they actually care about these people. That's crazy. And you do feel good that they don't die. Like I felt a little satisfaction there. I won't lie. I actually appreciated that because ironically, that was going against the normal like process you'd see in the other three movies. So technically that was a little bit more original on their part for doing that, if you really think about it. But otherwise, they were just kind of there. And you like that joke where they're like, oh, he's going to fucking kill it. He's going to get us all killed. Like we're all going to fucking die. And I was like, yeah, it's the track record usually. So you guys got off pretty lucky, honestly. You guys were very, very lucky. I did, though. I think Chris was like, I can't believe they did that. But I was like laughing the scene where everyone's jumping out of the windows, attempting to hit the car. I thought that was hilarious. That was the funniest shit.
Well, I was just like, this is the best the analyst has, is just literally throw people at them.
Because he's like, we're already chasing him. It doesn't seem to be working. So I'm just going to use everything at my current disposal, which means like, if you can hit the car, you can like potentially stop them a little bit more. And yeah, I thought I was just cracking up because she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, why are you running out the window?" And he's like, "I have a job, honey." Ah!
Well, that and like the handler guy out in the real world, it's like, oh my god, he's turning bodies into missiles, and I'm like, I bet you thought that sounded like a cool line. It just it's just not.
Yeah, no, you should have just said bodies into bombs. You know, that would have been a
Eh,
better,
that would have been better. A little bit
because
of
it's the
alliteration
BB.
there.
You know, it's yeah, that's the only reason. But otherwise, like I said, fun mess. Turn off your brain. Not really anything else.
I
For me,
guess
at
overall,
least.
I would say it's worth one watching.
One watch. Don't you?
Yeah.
You could watch the other movies, but at the same time, you don't need to, because guess what? They're going to show that scene that references back to the previous movies, because they're going to pull that into this movie. So you'll watch it anyway. You don't
Dude,
need to
yeah.
watch the other ones because
It's
you'll
like
see it there.
it's super funny because especially for the Mr. Smith scenes, like if they didn't superimpose those over the new guy, I would have been so confused when he picked up the gun and just started screaming Mr. Anderson. Because I would have been like, I don't understand what's happening. I thought he was a good guy.
What's going on, man?
Uh,
Also, last thing, the Frenchman coming
oh
back
yeah,
was
I
the
can't believe they
funniest
brought the
shit.
Merovingian back.
He just looks like he looks like a French trash man.
And he's just, dude, he didn't even participate in the fight. He just like kept.
He never did before. He never participates in the fights.
That's fair. He just kept screaming about like how he's like Neo is responsible for ruining pop culture because of sequels, and it was like
It was great.
It was more self-referential meta stuff
You
that
could
like
tell his digital wife left him.
really weird.
Yeah, she wasn't there. She was like, "Nah, I kissed Neo, and I didn't need any of you
She
anymore."
left with the ghosts.
Yeah. Oh God.
Uh,
And then also the daughter of those programs that was a little girl.
oh yeah, that was actually
really
cool to see her back.
I like that a lot. That was actually a really good callback there, especially
Yeah,
because they're like,
never
"Oh, the Oracle's
expected
dead.
that.
She was erased in the previous program." So
Yeah.
yeah. Last thing, do you think they'll make a sequel to it? Do you want a sequel to that?
I do not want a sequel to this.
I also don't think I need a sequel to
And
it. But also, if they
I
did it, I would
don't-
watch in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
Because fuck it, if it's dumb fun like this, I'm like, whatever the fuck. It's, you know, who cares? I'm spending like tops $17 on it, whatever.
that is really weird. Like I just said, I don't want to see a sequel, but if they did make a sequel, I might still watch it just out of curiosity of like,
You're like, don't do it.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but if I were to bet, I don't think they're gonna make another one. I'm like,
Yeah.
where do you go from here?
No, the fucking Mr. Smith is back, and he was building something, and now he's trying to disrupt what they're recreating with it, and maybe there's some issue with the machines now. And
Like-
Neil Patrick Harris is also bringing some of the cast from How I Met Your Mother into it as well, and Deja Vu, and also Lawrence Fishburne is there too. So now there's two Morpheuses, because they wanted to save him for a sequel. And Hugo Weaving is still like, I'm not. You really thought I'm not doing this shit. You can't. I'm done. I'm not doing this shit. I did it for The Hobbit, and that was the one thing I was gonna do, was The Hobbit.
Yeah.
You can't make me do anything else. You're not Peter Jackson. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know. Don't do it. Don't make another one. But if you do, I'll watch it. That doesn't help at all, does it?
No.
I regret nothing. But I think that's everything.
I think
Week,
we covered it.
next week, guys, we got Hawkeye. We'll talk some Hawkeye, and I think we could also do some cleanup of whatever we've been watching. I just got watch stuff. I don't have any like new play stuff really, unless I want to talk about Hunt Showdown maybe or something. But we could just talk about Hawkeye and backlog shit, and we'll have a good time. And then the rest of January, we'll see what happens. I think we've got some stuff potentially on the horizon, depending on what else we can knock out and what other movies are coming out too. We're going to try to see Nightmare Alley before that leaves theaters, if possible, so we could potentially talk about that. Game wise, I'm not really playing anything new. If you guys want to listen to our newest thing for games, it's gonna be Halo Infinite, but sometime I would say in early February or late January, maybe we can do like a big old fat Season of the Lost review in preparation for Witch Queen.
We could do that, especially since I should be done with the story stuff by then, hopefully.
Yeah, I feel like we're just waiting for that last mission to wrap up that story comes out, because they're just like waiting on it, and I'm just hoping they don't do the whole, oh, it's a week before Witch Queen comes out, and you're just like, for fuck, I just wanted this done like forever ago, and you made us wait like in a literal like 3-month gap from when the story finished to finish that story, and you go, hey, remember that story you did 3 months ago? Well, here's that last chapter to it. It's like a show just going, here's the final episode to the like, here's the 10th episode. I'm like, God, why'd you do this to me? Don't do that to me. But yeah. Anyway, of course, this has been Sutro Sidetalk. If you want to send us questions, comments, any feedback, questions we'll read on the show and answer on the show, you can send them to sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. That's just, the show title @gmail.com. And you can follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok @Sutro Sidetalk. TikTok, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to really do anything with it yet. I'm trying to do some other non-podcast stuff. Same reason why Cut of Steel and Up to It, Down to It are on hiatus. So I honestly might not be doing TikTok for another month or so, depending on if I actually have time to just do these little 1-minute clip edits. We'll see. But I'm just trying to get some other things done, like I said. One, it is we'll be doing pretty much from 131, or wait, this is 133, right? So 133, 132 onward, I'll have the 1-minute clips on TikTok and stuff. But for now, for sure, I'll have stuff on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram mostly, though. You can follow James on Twitter @InvaderJim124, and you can follow me on Twitter @GoGoComzilla. If you guys want to support us, you can give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can, I believe, now rate us on Spotify. I think that is doable. So if you do listen to us on Spotify, you can help us out there. If it's YouTube or anything, really, all these different platforms, subscribe to us is the main help there. And then YouTube itself, give the episode a like. If you have any comments, like I said, you can put it there too. Now that we're on YouTube, you can put the comments as well. But that's, I believe, everything. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will catch you next week with Hawkeye and whatever else we got. So long.
Thanks for listening.